Yes, a very beautiful morning to you all. Hope you had a wonderful night rest because I did myself. Yes, you know how we do it. This is another edition of Beyond the Headlines, where we review top stories, lead stories of our various Nigerian newspapers. Yes, and you know, this is GbaramatuVoiceTV, the number one leading Niger Delta Media Centre, broadcasting live from Warri, Delta State. Best Olo is my name, and of course, you know how to do it. I won't be doing this alone. I have my colleague and a friend with me in the studio this morning.
Yes, good morning to you this special morning. My name is Sheriff David Dieprier. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm fine. I'm very well. You see, I'm smiling this
Yes,
morning.
your face is shining. I know because of what the government promised us yesterday.
I'm actually
3 loads
happy,
of bag
even
of rice.
if even if there's really no much to be happy about, but you have to be happy because of life. Yes, life. I think life is the greatest gift you have to be grateful to God for. Yes, me seeing this day. Some people are in the hospital.
Yes.
Some people are in the hospital. Some people, what you are doing right now, they wish to be there. They wish to do it.
Yes.
But even some people clamoring, no job, no this, no that. But you are here.
Yes, you have something
so
doing.
you're privileged. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So
So
let's quickly get down to the
business
business
of the
the
day.
day.
Yeah. So we'll be reviewing the various newspapers we'll be having. So we'll be having Punch newspaper, we have This Day newspaper, we have Vanguard newspaper, we have Tribune newspaper, we have the Guardian newspaper. So
Think you would you start with the Punch? You review the Punch,
yes,
or should I go first?
yes, you are free to go first.
Okay. Now we'll be reviewing the Punch newspaper. First, we'll be starting with the lead stories of the Punch newspaper.
Punch newspaper.
Dangote Refinery projects 650,000 BPD June plans crude imports. Yes, that you would find on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. Now from the top left corner, governors propose new VAT sharing formula, OK tax bill. That you would also find on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. DHQ blames foreigners for renewed terror attacks. That you would also get more details on page 14 of the Punch newspaper. 12.3 billion naira fraud. EFCC to arraign Otudeko, ex-First Bank MD, by Monday. That you would also get more details on page 12 of the Punch newspaper. Yes, moving forward. Pegasan projects petrol price hike as crude oil cost rises. That you will also get on page 20 of the Punch newspaper. Yes, moving forward. Fubara, Wike calms clash as police occupy Rivers PDP secretariat. That you will get more details on page 12 of the Punch newspaper. Ogun guard arrested for alleged defilement of 6-year-old. That you would also get on page 6 of the Punch newspaper. And lastly, INEC deletes 7,746 dead persons from voter register. That you would also get more details on page 7 of the Punch newspaper. That's all we have for you. The front page stories, the lead stories of the Punch newspaper.
Yes, so that's very okay. Moving forward, we'll be reviewing the Guardian newspaper this morning. So, caught in the middle, survivors count cost of accidental airstrike. We can find that story on page 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspaper. On my top left and right side, I have FG and NIMC launch digital cards to assist farmers and others. We can find that on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Boko Haram ambush. UN demands justice for 40 killed in Borno. We can find that on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. Yes, tax reforms. Governors, presidency chef, VAT hike, agree on new revenue sharing formula. We can find that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. EFCC to arraign ex-banks chiefs over alleged 12.3 billion fraud. We can find that on page 7. On my down right hand side, we have PDP shuns Ondo LG. Poll as police restrict movement warns miscreants. We can find that on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Second to the last, rowdy sessions at National Assembly over budget defense. We can find that on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Police sealed PDP secretariat in Rivers over leadership crisis. We can find that on page 3. And lastly, DHQ blames external forces, local collaborators for terrorism surges in the northeast. We can find that on page 6 of the national newspaper. So that is what we'll be having for the Guardian newspaper this morning.
So you just heard from my colleague on the Guardian newspaper, and swiftly moving, I'll be reviewing stories on this day newspaper. First with the lead story. Tax reform. Governor's Presidential Committee endorsed revised VAT 50% equality. Approved 30% derivation, 20% based on population. Senate projects 100 trillion naira budget for 2026 fiscal year. Not G3 because it's ill prepared, Natasha explains. Northern Group decry politicization of issue. ASU insists move will destroy public varsity. All of that you would find on page 9 of this day newspaper. Now, moving forward to the top, O2 Deco reveals alleged role in FBN holdings, vows to defend reputation, says no plan to return to board rather. That you would find on page 9 of this day newspaper. Federal government convenes inaugural oil industry forum set to halt policy, regulatory conflicts, others. That you would also get more details on page 5 of this day newspaper. Cardoso unveils initiatives to boost payment turnaround, streamline approval processes, others. That you would get more details on page 9 of this day newspaper. And okay, yes, and that is all we have for lead stories of this day newspaper.
Yes, so moving forward, we'll be reviewing the Tribune newspaper this special morning. On my top left-hand side, we have Wike withdraws Maitama plots, arrow of O from reps, speaker, governors, and others. Rowdy session disrupts IGP's 2025 budget, defense at NAS. We can find that on page 4. Backlash, Abraham Ogbodo, big INEC budgets, and unending cycle of electoral failures. We can read about that on the back page. FG dismisses Emir Sansusi comments on Tinubu's economic reform. We can find that on page 6 of the Tribune newspaper. 6 years after Kingmakers pick new Elerowa forward name to Makinde. We can read about that on page 6 of the Tribune newspaper. Ifon, Irolu, communal crisis. Adeleke imposes curfew. We can read about that on page 25 of the Tribune newspaper. Moving forward, governors propose new VAT sharing formula. We can read about that on page 2. The proposal, 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, 20% based on population, back tax reform bills, oppose reduction in corporate income tax. Say no to terminal clause for TET fund, NESAN, NITIDA in sharing development levies. Second to the last, ICPC files charges against Jimmy Lawal, former Air Rufai's Aide, 3 and others. We can read about that on page 3. Lastly, Ondo LG election, PDP candidates as logheads over the withdrawal Saturday polls. We can find that on page 3. So that is what we'll be reviewing for the Tribune newspaper.
Yes, that is all we have for the Tribune newspaper. And quickly, I'll be reviewing stories on the Vanguard newspaper.
Yes.
Tax bills. Governors offer new formula for sharing VAT proceed. Proposed VAT distribution based on 50% equality, 30% derivation, 20% population. Back Tinubu on reforms. Why North is jittery over tax reform. That you would get more details on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Yes, moving to the top. Crude oil price will detect petrol pump costs. That you would get on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. Southern governors mobilize, activate regional security. That you would get details on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. Federal government to Emir Sanusi, rather. We don't need your approval for Tinubu's laudable policies. That you will get details on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Yes, moving forward, how hardship drives some Nigerians to look for food in garbage. That you would get more details on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Rowder session in NAS as IGB presents 2025 budget. That you would also get details on page 2 of the Vanguard newspaper. Yes, moving forward, the last, kidnapping. Nigerians may have paid 10 trillion naira ransom in 2024. That you would also get more details on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. Yes, moving forward to Daily Trust.
Daily Trust, that's Daily Trust. So we'll be reviewing Daily Trust newspaper. Governors reject VAT hike, propose new sharing formula. We can find that on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. On my top left-hand side, we have truck kills 6 family members at Benue. Abuja Kaduna Kano Road is ready in 14 months' time. We can find that in page 32 of the Daily Trust newspaper. 6 terrorists, 5 soldiers die in Sokoto, Gondwe. We can find that also in page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Families of Zamfara airstrike victims demand compensation. We can find that on page 3 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Israel kills 75 Palestinians amidst ceasefire deal. We can find that on page 25 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Presidency to Sansusi. Don't undermine our reforms. We can read about that on page 5 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Lastly, oil and gas. Look, Pobori assures of sustained collaboration. We can read about that on page 2 of the Daily Trust newspaper. So that's what we'll be having for our review.
Yes, quickly before we go into details of our review of lead stories from various newspaper, I'll quickly be diving into sports. Let's just quickly have one or two on sports. Punch Sports. Now, one of the lead stories, Kenneth Omero interview. This 2025, I have sat back to appreciate what I have achieved and also see the possibility of achieving more things. This year, I want to improve in whatever I have been doing. Yes, that's an interview from Kenneth Omero. Yes, from the top left corner, we have Eagle B Real Shan postponements. That you would find on page 7 of the Punch Sports. Dashers open up on Percival Ranger exits. That you would also get more details on page 7 of the newspaper. Oshola targets WAFCON glory. That you would get on page 7 of the newspaper. Saudi chiefs tempt Salah with 655 million euros deal. That you would get on page 4 of the newspaper. Arsenal begins search for new striker. That you would also get on page 5 of the newspaper. Only Messi better than Yamal. Yes, that was said by Gavi on page 3 of the newspaper. Milan keen on Rashford Walker. That's also on page 3 of the newspaper. And lastly, before we go into details, Madrid ponder Showmany says on page 3 of the newspaper. Cricket, Nigeria coach upbeat ahead women's under 19 World Cup. Page 2 of the newspaper. And that is what we have on sports before we quickly dive into what we have for today, our business of today.
Yes.
So quickly, I think what should we start with our review? We should quickly start with...
Let's talk about caught in the middle. Survivors count cost of accidental airstrike.
Okay, that's on the Guardian newspaper.
Guardian
Caught in the middle. Yes. Survivors count cost of accidental airstrike. Wow, I think this was actually talking about the incident that happened at the northern area where insecurity has now become the play of the day. They are no longer safe. Farmers are no longer safe in their town. Yes. They said terrorists have eluded everywhere and they cannot farm safely in their own farmland. And I think governors have put in measures to employ security for them to be more safe in their own town. Well, I think this is outrageous. It is not safe
at all.
For a fact that we are in our country and we don't feel safe in our lands anymore because of bandits and terrorists.
Boko Harams and the rest. It's really bad. It's really trying because we are in a situation whereby families who have farmland for them to just go and cultivate, where they can just go plant, their seeds, where they can go to harvest their seeds. Bandits will just come in form of strangers. They will kill them. They will slaughter them. Anybody that will try to fight back,
they
slaughter them.
They are no longer
so that
safe.
People will comply to the rules and regulations of what the bandits are saying. And so these people now, they've come out now to come and air their view that please come and assist us, come and help us. Because you can't be watching us. You're saying that we are one Nigerians.
Somebody will wake up a day and go out to fend for themselves.
Yes.
To look for what they want to eat.
Like
as a normal Nigerian.
Yes.
And then you won't feel safe in your own land.
In your own land, in your own home, in your own village. Most of them is their own village. Their own their own village, not as if they are in somebody's land or
And
somebody's town.
I think at some points the northern area was already becoming more safe.
Yes, more safe. Yes,
But
yes,
I don't know what happened.
these days now becoming something else. So it's not really easy. We believe the government, they are trying their possible best to, and we're also using it to appeal that the government should try to see what they can do, because we can't be shouting we are one Nigerians, and meanwhile some
We
people
don't
are being
feel
marginalized, some people
safe.
are being deprived of
And
their basic human rights. They don't even have the opportunity for them to express themselves on what they are facing. So they will just be in their house. At times they will just hear bomb blast,
Imagine.
heavy weapons. They will just
In
come bail
fact,
them.
do you know that these are the things we see on the news are what we know?
Yes.
And
it's
what
not
about
new.
the ones that did not
That
make
did
it
not-
to the
that did not
news?
make it to the news.
People that have been kidnapped, people
kidnapped.
that have died,
have died.
that didn't make it to the news. I wonder how.
How they will feel this morning.
Oh my God!
So,
It's really saddens. It really saddens
yes,
me. But
some-
I'm actually very happy for the measures that the governors have put in place for security.
Yes,
For security. Please, I think that is in northern areas. I don't think it's safe anymore.
So they have to, because that we can't marginalize the north, because we have to bring them together, from the south to the east, from the north to the west. There have to be peace. There has to be unity among those places. When there's unity, when there's peace, that's when development can go there. But by the time you hear that they are killing people, by the time you hear they are harassing people by strange men, by gunmen, there's no way investors would like to go there. There's no way people want to take in their
I would like to
innovative
tell you a
idea.
story. I'm sorry for cutting you. I would like to tell you a story. Why I think when I went for my youth service,
Yes.
in fact, I was praying. I was praying to God. Do you know my prayer? You
That's not
should
go to
be
the
able
north.
to tell exactly.
That is one of the trends in Nigeria. There's no young graduate now that want to go to the
In
north
fact,
because
I
of
was
the high insecurity.
I was afraid. I said, God, please. That was the first thing that was just in my head. God, please do not. And well, people that actually went there to serve, they told a good story. Yes, they told a good story.
It's a very nice place.
It's a very nice place.
No,
a very
the north
serene.
is not really bad.
In
It's a
fact,
very nice
it's a
place,
very
but
nice place, but because of the insecurities and all of that,
is that making it look
because foods, everything, the people there, foods are quite affordable.
Yeah, affordable.
Yes, because that's one of their major
cost of
operations.
accommodation is affordable.
Very, very affordable.
Cost of feeding is affordable. They also have at least some good roads. It's not as if
Exactly.
it's totally bad. Even the people themselves, they are friendly. Not as if they are.
They're actually friendly.
Yeah, they are
in
very
fact,
friendly.
in fact, I have a friend. He told me when he went to serve
Yes.
at the northern area years
Yes.
ago. In fact, he was given a plot of land to
imagine?
farm on, I think, Irish potato or something, and he made it. In fact, he never wanted to come back.
Yes.
It was his friend that, oh yeah, after what I used to doing there after
Yes,
1 year of
after
service,
1
oh yeah,
year.
start coming back home.
Coming back.
So I think we need to, security needs to
put their focus, put their
yes
attention
on the northern area, so that people will not be afraid to go out
Yes.
to source for their daily
Their
daily
bread.
needs. I think our government needs to
Look into that aspect.
do something on that. And quickly, let's check if there is any more. Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward to the Punch newspaper. Yes, I'll be reviewing the lead story of the Punch newspaper.
Yes.
Dangote refinery projects 650,000 barrel per day. That's BPD. Sorry, I'm always mistaken on that. In June, plans crude oil imports. That you would find more details on page 19 of the Punch newspaper. Wow, that's a very good one.
Yes.
That's like a very good one. Dangote Dangote refinery projects 650,000 barrel per day in June. Yes, it's actually a very good one. Well, we have the pros and cons. Looking at it, they said we are looking at importing crude oil. If we should look at it, well, I would say it's a good one, and I would also say it will have like a little negative impact on Nigeria. If we can actually deal with the one we have within our locality now, it's now what they are actually clamoring on. They said Nigeria's we actually allocated 450,000 barrel per day for local
local utilization.
Yes, in Nigeria.
Yes.
Now they are even saying that 350,000 that NNPC is allocating is not even enough.
Not enough.
They can't even meet the 450 they were allocated to local in Nigeria here, a local market. Now NNPC cannot even meet up. So they have no other option than to import. Now, looking at the positive side, I think it will actually bring a positive impact due to the fact that they are expanding. Now it will create more job opportunities, obviously.
More employment opportunities.
Yes,
that will generate more revenue too. It's not as if it's totally bad. It's also a very good thing too. So I'm just hoping that this initiative is going to at least bring progress this first quarter of the year, before the half of the year, down to the end of this 2025. Everybody are really trying their possible best to see what they can do. For